Okay, picture this for a second. You're a king in the ancient world. You're Philip II of Macedon, battle-hardened. You're missing an eye, covered in scars.
The toughest guy in any room he walks into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you walk into your own bedroom, ready to sleep, but you hesitate. You actually stop at the threshold.
Because you see something moving in the bed next to your wife.
And it's not a lover.
No, not a pet dog.
It's snakes.
Yeah.
Massive, coiling, tame serpents just winding through the bed sheets. And your wife, Olympias, is just sleeping peacefully right in the middle of them.
It's such a terrifying image, isn't it? And for Philip, that wasn't like a one-time thing. That was just life with Olympias.
We are doing a deep dive today into one of the most intense figures in all of ancient history.
That's putting it mildly.
We're talking about Olympias, the mother of Alexander the Great. And, usually she just gets written off as a villain, the evil queen trope, doing witchcraft, murdering people.
Which, to be fair, she did do some murdering.
Sure, spoilers ahead. But looking at the source material we've got, specifically drawing from Olympias, the fierce queen and mother of Alexander, the goal today is to get past that caricature.
Right.
We want to understand her as a political operator.
Yeah.
Because when you strip away all the Hollywood villain stuff, you find a woman who is playing a nearly impossible hand of cards.
In a world that was just completely designed to crush her.
Exactly.
That's the key context here. This was a world where women were political pawns. You were meant to be married off and stay quiet.
And Olympias refused to stay quiet.
She managed to carve out power in a way that just terrified the men around her. And that snake story you started with, that's not just some weird eccentricity.
No, it was a calculated move.
It was a strategy.
We're definitely going to get into the strategy of the snakes, but first we have to look at where she even came from. Because she wasn't actually Macedonian, right?
No, and that's so crucial to understanding, the chip on her shoulder later in life. She was from Epirus.
Epirus.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Today, it's sort of on the border of Greece and Albania.
And in the ancient world, Epirus wasn't like Athens or Corinth.
Oh, not at all. Athens was the land of democracy, philosophy, marble statues. Epirus was, it was the Wild West. It was rugged, mountainous, tribal.
Okay.
It was a place where the connection to the old gods felt much closer, much more primal. This is where the Oracle of Dodona was, which was even older than Delphi.
So she grows up in this mystical, rugged landscape.
Yeah.
But she's royalty.
Oh yeah, high royalty. She's a member of the Meletian tribe. And you have to remember, in the ancient world, your genealogy was your resume.
Right.
You didn't run for office on policy. You ran based on who your great-grandfather was. And Olympias had the ultimate resume. Her family claimed descent from Achilles.
The Achilles. Trojan War, greatest warrior ever, that Achilles.
Very same. And on the other side, they claimed descent from Zeus.
So she walks into a room basically believing and telling everyone that she has the blood of the greatest hero and the king of the gods flowing through her veins.
Exactly. It wasn't just vanity. It was political capital. It gave her this incredible sense of destiny. When she married Philip of Macedon, she didn't see herself as some lucky girl marrying a king.
She saw it as a merger of superpowers.
Precisely.
But let's go back to the snakes.
Yeah.
Because she brings that whole wild reputation with her to the Macedonian court. She was involved in these cults of Dionysus.
Right. The sources call them orgiastic cults, but we need to be really careful with that word.
Right.
In ancient Greek, orgiasia doesn't mean a sex party. It means secret rites or ecstatic worship. It's about entering a trance state to connect directly with a god.
And Plutarch mentions she would lead these processions. And she'd have snakes in baskets, and they'd slither out and wind around the ivy wreaths and the staffs the men were holding.
And it terrified the men.
Which I have to assume was the entire point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about the power dynamic. She is a woman in a hyper-masculine warrior society. Philip and his generals, they resolve conflicts with swords.
She can't do that.
She can't do that. So how do you level the playing field? You tap into the supernatural. You become the gatekeeper to the gods.
If the toughest general in the room is scared of the snake around your neck, you've already won.
You've won. She created this personal brand of mystical power. It made people respect her, sure, but more importantly, it kept them at a distance. It gave her an aura of danger that she used as a shield.
So she marries Philip. It's a political alliance. But almost right away, they start playing these mind games about who or what conceived their child, Alexander.
Yeah, the dream mythology. This is just fascinating because it shows how early she was planning Alexander's future. The story goes that the night before the marriage, Olympias dreamed a thunderbolt struck her womb.
A thunderbolt. That is Zeus's signature weapon. There's no subtlety there.
Not at all. And in the dream, a fire starts that spreads everywhere but doesn't actually burn her.
Okay.
Then Philip has a dream where he seals her womb with the image of a lion.
So she is actively spreading the rumor that Philip might not even be the father of her child.
That Zeus got there first.
That's an incredibly bold move.
It is. It's risky because it humiliates Philip. But the upside is huge. If Alexander is the son of Zeus, he isn't just a prince.
He's a demigod.
He's a demigod. She is elevating him above every other potential heir from the moment he's conceived.
But that had to destroy the marriage. I mean, telling your husband the king of the gods is the real father, that's a lot to handle.
It certainly cooled things down. Philip eventually stopped visiting her bed as often. Sources say he was either afraid of her magic or, just repulsed by the snakes we mentioned.
Right.
But the estrangement wasn't just about magic. It was about math.
The math of polygamy.
Exactly. Macedon wasn't a monogamous kingdom. Philip had at least 7 wives.
7.
It was standard for kings. They married for alliances. So Olympias isn't sitting comfortably as the queen. She's one of several women, all living in this cutthroat environment where everyone is jockeying to get their son on the throne.
It's basically Survivor, but if you lose, you and your kids probably get executed.
It's life and death. And for a while, Olympias is winning because she has Alexander. He's brilliant, he's strong, he's the clear heir. But then, in 337 BCE, everything just falls apart.
The wedding.
The wedding of Philip to Cleopatra Eurydice. This is the crisis point.
And we should clarify, this is not the famous Cleopatra of Egypt.
No, different Cleopatra. This one is a Macedonian noblewoman.
And that detail really matters.
It's everything. Because Olympias is a foreigner from Paris, Alexander is half Epirot. But Cleopatra Eurydice is full-blooded Macedonian aristocracy.
So if she has a son with Philip,
the generals might look at that kid and say, he's one of us. Alexander is a half-breed.
So Olympias' entire position is threatened. Alexander's inheritance is on the line. And they're at the wedding feast, tensions are high, everyone's drinking, and then it just explodes.
It's the scene that changes history. The bride's uncle, a general named Attalus, stands up to make a toast.
He's drunk.
Very drunk. And he asks the gods that this marriage will finally produce a, quote, legitimate heir to the throne.
Oh, he said that right in front of Alexander.
To his face. He is publicly calling Alexander a bastard.
And Alexander does not take that well.
Not at all. He throws his drinking cup at Attalus. It's chaos. Philip, the king, stands up. But he doesn't defend his son.
No.
He draws his sword and moves to attack Alexander for disrespecting the bride's family.
But Philip is so drunk.
He trips over a couch and just falls flat on his face.
And then Alexander delivers that line. I love this quote.
It's just devastating. Alexander looks down at his father on the floor and says, look, men, here's the man who is preparing to cross from Europe to Asia, and he cannot even cross from one couch to another.
That is the ultimate mic drop. You can't really stay for dessert after saying that to the king.
No, total rupture. Olympias and Alexander flee into exile. They go to Paris, and this is where we see Olympias, the strategist, really start to work.
Right.
She doesn't just sit and cry. She starts working on her brother, the king of Epirus, trying to get him to go to war against Philip. She is actively plotting.
She's moving pieces on the board. And then, in 336 BCE, the biggest piece falls.
Philip is assassinated.
The classic whodunit of the ancient world.
It really is. Philip is at a wedding, ironically, his and Olympias' daughter's wedding, and as he enters the theater, he's stabbed to death by one of his own bodyguards, a man named Pausanias.
Now, Pausanias had his own personal grudge against Philip. It's a whole messy story. But when you look at who benefits,
Olympias had the most to gain. Philip had a new wife, a new baby boy had just been born.
Alexander's claim was slipping away.
By the day. With Philip dead, Alexander becomes king. Instantly.
So is there any actual evidence linking her to it?
There's no smoking gun. But the historian Justin records something really chilling. He claims that after the assassin was killed by the guards, Olympias returned from exile and placed a golden crown on the assassin's head.
Wow.
She publicly honored the man who killed her husband.
That is not subtle. That is a power move.
Olympias didn't do subtle. She wanted everyone to know she was back, and her actions right after the funeral were even more terrifying.
She had to eliminate the competition.
Exactly. Secure the throne for Alexander.
And this is the part of the story that gets really grim. We're talking about the new wife, Cleopatra Eurydice, and her infant child.
Yes. Olympias ordered the execution of the infant. And for Cleopatra Eurydice, well, the sources say Olympias sent her a kind of care package.
What was in it?
A sword, a noose, and a cup of hemlock poison. The message was, choose how you want to die.
That is undeniably cruel. It fits that evil queen narrative perfectly.
It does. But if you just pause the moral judgment for a second and look at the political reality, like, if that infant boy lives, he grows up to be a rival claimant. Civil war is inevitable.
So she was doing the dirty work.
She was doing the dirty work to ensure the stability of Alexander's reign. She took the blood on her hands so he could take the glory.
So Alexander is secure. He takes the army, goes off to conquer the known world. He's gone for years. But he doesn't leave Olympias in charge of Macedon.
No, and she hated that. He left a general named Antipater as regent. And Olympias and Antipater, they were like oil and water. They absolutely loathed each other.
The letters they sent to Alexander are just incredible. It's like a dysfunctional family group chat.
Totally. She's writing, Antipater's arrogant. He's acting like a king. And Antipater's writing, your mother is meddling. She's impossible.
And Alexander is literally in the middle of dismantling the Persian Empire, and he's getting these complaints.
Right. He famously joked that his mother charged high rent for the 9 months he spent in her womb.
Meaning she was high maintenance.
Very. But he never silenced her. There's another famous quote where he says, one tear of my mother's wipes out 10,000 letters from Antipater.
That's profound. It shows that despite the annoyance, he knew whose side she was truly on.
Exactly. He knew Antipater served the kingdom, but Olympias served him. She was the only person on earth who loved Alexander more than she loved his power.
And she kept working on his PR while he was away.
Constantly. She reinforced that son of Zeus narrative.
So when Alexander visits the oracle at Siwa in Egypt, and the priest greets him as the son of a god, that wasn't an accident.
It was the harvest of seeds Olympias had planted decades earlier. She laid the psychological groundwork for him to believe he was invincible.
But then, the invincible man dies, 323 BCE. Alexander dies in Babylon at age 32.
And the world collapses. The empire just fractures immediately. The generals, the Diadoches, start carving it up.
And there's no clear heir.
No. He has a half-witted brother, Philip III, and a pregnant wife, Roxana, who eventually gives birth to a boy, Alexander IV.
And suddenly, Olympias has a new mission.
The only mission that matters? Protecting her grandson. Alexander IV is the last legitimate link to her son. If he dies, the dynasty dies.
So Olympias is back in Epirus, but she sees her grandson is in danger in Macedon, where Philip III and his ambitious wife, Adia Eurydice, are taking control.
So she decides to invade.
Just like that.
317 BCE, she leads an Epirot army into Macedon. And in this moment, this is pure cinema. You have two armies lined up for battle.
Spears, shields, dust kicking out.
On one side, the Macedonian army. On the other, Olympias.
And she rides out to the front.
She does. And she's not wearing armor. She's dressed in the robes of a Bacchant, a devotee of Dionysus. She looks like a priestess queen.
And what did the Macedonian soldiers do, the enemy army?
They look across the field. They see her. They see the mother of Alexander the Great. And they lower their spears.
They refuse to fight her.
The entire army defects to her side without a single arrow being fired.
That is incredible. That's psychological warfare at its absolute peak.
It was her apex. She took the kingdom on the strength of her name and her presence alone. But this is also where she starts to lose the plot.
How so?
She didn't know when to stop. After she took power, she had Philip III executed. She forced his wife to commit suicide. That's brutal, but kind of standard for the time.
But she went further.
She went way further. She executed about 100 Macedonian noblemen who were loyal to Cassander, who was Antipater's son.
100 nobles. That's not a surgical strike. That's a purge.
It was a bloodbath, and it was a fatal error. The Macedonians were used to violence, but it violated the norms. It turned the populace against her. She went from being the revered mother of Alexander to a tyrant.
And Cassander is coming for her. This is a generational feud now. The son of Antipater versus the mother of Alexander.
He counterattacks. He traps her in the coastal city of Pydna. And the siege of Pydna. I mean, if you want to understand how tough this woman was, you have to look at the siege.
Yeah, the source material describes the conditions inside the city as just nightmare fuel.
It was horrific. They ran out of food, they ate the horses, then they ate the pack animals. The sources explicitly state that by the end, the garrison was resorting to eating sawdust and boiled leather.
And she's in there with her grandson the whole time, watching him starve.
But she refuses to surrender because she knows surrender means the end of Alexander's line. But finally, in 316 BCE, the soldiers just can't take it anymore. She surrenders.
On what condition?
On the condition that her life is spared.
Cassandra promises her safety.
He promises, but we know what promises are worth in this family. Cassandra wants her dead, but he has a problem. She is still Olympias. She is still the mother of Alexander.
He's afraid the army will revolt if he kills her.
Exactly. So he tries to rig the legal system. He organizes a trial, but he forbids her from speaking. He knows if she gets to speak, her charisma might sway them.
He silences her.
The assembly condemns her to death in absentia.
But who's going to swing the sword? Who's going to kill the mother of a god?
That was the issue. Cassandra sends soldiers to her house to kill her. They burst in and they freeze. They see her standing there in her royal robes and they can't do it. They're paralyzed by the awe of who she is.
Wow. Even defeated and starving, she still commands the room.
So Cassandra has to find people who hate her more than they fear her. He rounds up the relatives of those 100 nobles she executed.
Revenge.
Pure revenge. They storm the house and stone her to death.
God, that is just a brutal way to go.
And the accounts say she didn't scream, she didn't run. As the stones were hitting her, she just arranged her robes to ensure she fell decently. She died with the absolute dignity of a queen.
And then the final insult. Cassandra denies her burial rites.
Which to a Greek was a condemnation of the soul. He wanted to erase her completely.
And what about the grandson? The boy she ate sawdust for?
It was all for nothing. Cassandra kept him alive for a few years as a figurehead, and then had him quietly murdered. The bloodline of Alexander, the bloodline of Achilles and Zeus, it ended right there.
That is the tragedy. You look at her life, this immense struggle, snakes, magic, murder, war, and in the end, the dynasty is extinguished anyway.
It really forces us to ask the big question about her legacy. If you read the ancient sources, she is the villain. She is meddlesome, cruel, stubborn.
Words they probably wouldn't use for a man who did the exact same things.
Precisely. If a man had secured the succession and eliminated rivals, he'd be called resolute or strong. Olympias was operating in a system that gave her zero official power. She had to carve authority out of thin air.
And without her, is there an Alexander the Great?
That's the crux of it, isn't it? She gave him his confidence. She gave him the belief that he was divine. She protected him from the cutthroat politics of his father's court. You just can't separate the two.
She's the co-author of the legend.
Absolutely, but she's also a cautionary tale.
How so?
Because that same intensity, that refusal to compromise, that willingness to use extreme violence is what ultimately turned the Macedonians against her. The very traits that made her so powerful were the traits that destroyed her.
It's a fine line between creating a god and burning down your own house.
And Olympias walked that line every single day of her life.
Well, that's a heavy note to end on, but a necessary one. We often say behind every great man is a great woman, but in the case of Olympias, she wasn't just standing behind him. She was the fire that fueled him, and maybe the fire that consumed them both.
A complicated legacy for a very complicated woman.
Something to think about. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into Olympias. We'll see you next time.